He was born in Russia, a country known for its long tradition of toughness, strength, and athletic dominance. And from this environment emerged a figure who, in recent years, has flooded social media and split the fitness world into two camps. His name is Andrey Smaev. At first glance, he seems almost unreal, a body that resembles more a comic book character than a real human. Massive arms, an enormous back, a neck as thick as a tree trunk. When he appears on screen, most people ask the same question. Is this even possible? And that very question is why he's being talked about all over the world. Andrey Smaev didn't start as a famous athlete. He wasn't an Olympic champion, a world title holder, or a professional bodybuilder with accolades. His road to fame took a different path, through the internet, through short videos, brutal performances, and the image of absolute dominance. In a time when social media rewards the extreme, someone came along who embodies the extreme in every inch of his body. His content is simple yet effective. Heavy weights, raw training, minimal explanation. No motivational talk about balance or healthy lifestyle. Just strength. Just performance. Just him versus iron. That simplicity catapulted him among the most watched fitness influencers from Eastern Europe. While most fitness creators focus on aesthetics, symmetry, or education, Smaev goes the opposite way. His brand is built on shock, on the feeling that you're watching something you maybe shouldn't be watching. Every video evokes emotion, admiration, fear, disbelief, sometimes even disgust. And that's exactly what works. In a short time, he built a massive fan base around himself. People share his videos, comment on them, and argue beneath them. Some claim he represents a new level of human strength. Others call it a health hazard. And many simply refuse to believe such a body could exist without consequences. But no matter what you think, one thing is undeniable: attention. A big part of his popularity also stems from the image of the Russian beast. A quiet, focused expression, minimal emotion, no smiles to the camera. Everything appears cold, hard, and relentless, as if every video says this is not entertainment, this is war. War with iron, with the limits of the human body, and maybe even with sanity. What's interesting is how little he explains about his past. Very little is known about his beginnings. There are no long interviews where he talks about childhood, his first workout, or sporting dreams. And that mystery surrounding his story only fuels the myth. The less information there is, the more room for speculation. For many young people, he became a symbol of absolute strength, someone who pushed the boundaries of what they believed was possible. For others, he's a warning sign, a glimpse into what obsession with performance and size can lead to. And this contrast, that's what defines his phenomenon. The question of whether we're witnessing the peak of human potential or the crossing of that line. So the first part of this story isn't about numbers, lifts, or weights. It's about how an unknown man became a global phenomenon, how the internet can create an icon from an extreme, and how the name Andrey Smaev began to resonate throughout the fitness world as a symbol of something that fascinates and frightens at the same time. When you watch his training videos, the first impression is almost always the same. It's not just about how much he lifts, it's how he lifts it. The movements are hard, short, stripped of any unnecessary flair. No showboating, no posing. Just pure dominance over weight that, for most people, would mean immediate failure. Smaev is known especially for pulling and rowing exercises. That's where he looks the most terrifying. Rows with huge added loads, pull-ups that defy logic, and deadlifts that even experienced strength athletes watch in disbelief. The videos often feel deceptive. The brain resists accepting that a human body can manage such performance. His physical attributes play a critical role. His weight far exceeds that of typical strength athletes. Arms so massive they surpass measurements known even in professional bodybuilding. A back like armor. a neck that looks more like structural reinforcement than part of a human body. The whole figure resembles a machine, more than an organism. And here's where public perception starts to fracture. One group sees Smaev as evolution, the next step in human strength, proof that limits are only mental. The other sees an extreme anomaly, something that simply cannot function long-term. And the longer you watch his videos, the harder it becomes to remain neutral. What's also intriguing is how he compares to classic strongmen or bodybuilders. Strongmen often move heavier weights, but their movement is slower, different in technique, adapted for competitions. Bodybuilders focus on shape, control, and symmetry. Smaev stands somewhere in between. He has the volume of a bodybuilder, but his performance style feels like raw war. His feats also often come without context. No explanation of his prep, no info about recovery, health status, or long-term planning. You only see the result. And that amplifies the impression that you're witnessing something dangerously powerful, something with no breaks. Repetition plays a big role too. It's not about one viral clip or one successful attempt. These feats appear again and again, across different videos, in different time frames. Even skeptics have to admit, it's no fluke. Whatever's behind it, the results are consistent. But the more performances you see, the more questions emerge. What are the limits of the joints? What is the price of such strength? What's going on inside a body constantly under extreme stress? And here's where admiration begins to blur into concern. The second part of Andrey Smaev's story isn't just about numbers or kilograms, it's about the clash of reality and perception. The moment you're unsure if you're witnessing the pinnacle of human power or its dangerous overreach, and the longer you watch, the more you realize the answer isn't simple. With every new video, with every new feat, speculation around Smaev started to rise. The word appearing in comment sections more than any other: chemistry. For some, it's a given. For others, it's taboo. And for many, a reason to dismiss the whole phenomenon. One thing must be said openly. In the world of peak strength and extreme physical mass, there's no room for naivety. Most people understand that this level of performance isn't just built on chicken breast and hard work. But the question isn't whether yes or no. The question is, how far? Because Smaev doesn't follow the classic model the fitness world is used to. He's not a competitive bodybuilder with a defined goal, season, and prep phases. He's not even a strongman with official contests and rules. He's an influencer, a person whose main arena is attention. And that changes the rules of the game. When every video is your competition, the boundaries shift differently. Every new piece of content has to hit harder than the last, be more brutal, more shocking. And that creates pressure, unseen but very real. Pressure to keep pushing, even when the body may be screaming to stop. Experts often point out that the human body has limits that can't be bypassed without consequences. Joints, tendons, the heart, the vascular system, all of it is stressed under extreme weight and strength. And the problem is, these consequences don't show up instantly. They don't strike mid-video. They arrive quietly, gradually. That's why, for part of the fitness community, Smaev is a warning. Not because he's doing something wrong, but because of what he represents. A picture of strength without context. Performance without clarity about the cost. Young people watching him often only see the outcome. They don't see years of adaptation, genetics, risks, or behind-the-scenes reality. On the other side, stand the fans who see him as a symbol of freedom, someone who doesn't follow federation rules, contests, or expectations. He carves his own path. He doesn't tell people to follow him. He just exists and shows how far you can go when you ignore the norms. And that's where a critical tension arises. Is an influencer's responsibility the same as a coach's? Is there an obligation to explain the risks? Or is it all up to the viewer? The fitness world has no unified answer to these questions, and maybe it never will. But one thing is undeniable. Andrey Smaev changed how strength is perceived online. He raised the bar for what people now consider normal. What would have been seen as an extreme a few years ago is now in comment sections being labeled as standard, and maybe that's his biggest impact. At the same time, history in strength sports is full of names that burned bright and fast. People who pushed the limits but paid with their health. Some faded from public view. Others remain as cautionary tales. And that's why the question of Smaev's future always lingers. How long can this style last? How far can you go before the body says enough? And what will remain once the shock factor wears off? These questions have no answers yet. And maybe that's what makes his story so captivating. The third part of Andrey Smaev's story isn't about condemnation or praise. It's about reflection, about the thin line between inspiration and warning, about how quickly admiration can become a blind chase for the extreme, and about how real strength sometimes lies not in how much you can carry, but in knowing when to stop. This was the story of the extreme, a story of strength that fascinates, but also forces us to think. Whether you see Andrey Smaev as a symbol of human potential or a warning of how far the pursuit of performance can go, one thing is certain: figures like this cannot be ignored. Thanks for watching this video to the end. I'm Andrew. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you think about this phenomenon. Your views and discussions are what push this channel forward. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.